Well, China has many and frequent disasters, both natural, for example, the typhoons, landslides, earthquakes, droughts, rainfall, but also some man-made disasters like mining, for example. In some of the mines, there have been quite strong loss of life. So I think what I am seeing now in China is an awakening about the importance of quality of life and preventing some of these disasters and being prepared in society more and more, and of course in the government structures as well. So all of this is happening now in China, and I suspect the 12th five-year plan will incorporate much of this thinking and this direction. Yes, it will. The International Center for Earth Simulation, ICES, in Geneva, our plan is to provide a global model which allows us to do high-resolution simulation of many natural phenomena on the planet, including the climate, the weather, the oceans, the mountains, the rivers, and to understand the dynamics of our living planet more and more on a global basis. Yes. This information should help every nation understand and even build higher resolution models locally, which we cannot do on the global basis. So it's a partnership between having the global picture enables you to make a more accurate local picture. And that is a relationship we would like to build with China and the Chinese government and different levels inside of China. So we are delighted to know that the consciousness of China is moving up, and the importance of understanding the natural environment in China so that it can be part of the global picture. And human society here is also such an important factor with 1.3 billion people, maybe more, interacting with the planet. We must know how this connection works well, and then this will fill in the total global picture. So the Chinese knowledge will help the global picture, and the global picture will help Chinese knowledge. There is the interaction of both. Yeah. And we are both emerging at the same time. Global knowledge today is siloed, very specialized, and the purpose of the International Center for Earth Simulation is to integrate all of these sciences, both natural science as well as social-economic science, to integrate them globally so that you can integrate locally with the outside boundary conditions. You understand the atmosphere coming into China, you understand the ocean flowing past China, you understand the rivers coming, for example, from the Himalayas. You understand all the components coming into China from the outside. And therefore, we have both a local effort and we have a global effort. All of that coming together in a center of excellence. This is a wonderful idea which is incubated from the conference. Yes. And I don't think at the beginning of the conference we didn't know what would emerge. It's rather a natural emergence from all the conversations, the wonderful conversations at the conference. So integrating China across all these levels of input is quite a challenge, but it can only be done with IT and leadership. So if China can create this center of excellence, then we can connect it to the global picture easily. But if it's fragmented, it's very hard to connect it to the global picture. Yes. And I think this is the challenge, how to bring together in China. And this proposed conference, continuation of this conference and the transformation into a forum of focused on natural disaster and response and reconstruction, bringing all this knowledge together will be a wonderful tool for the other countries in the world to learn from. So we are ready to learn from this experience. And I think thirdly, there may be an idea of having shelters around the country where people can accumulate in the case of a tragedy, and it's a place where there is local support, local help, emotional help, and these shelters may be, a network of shelters may be a good idea supporting the public. So I have those three ideas to deal with the emotional issue. Now the truth is, all of this is in the bigger realm of nature, society and nature. And to the extent that we have broken that relationship, we are in trouble. So overall, we could argue that guiding our societies back to nature is a much safer path for the future than continuing on what we are doing.
And there are many people in companies around the world who would fear more to saying, we exist to serve the whole and to thrive in so doing. But if we do not think of the outside environment to the company and manage it for the good of the whole as well as the good of the company, then we are not in a sustainable position for tomorrow's world. I think that is really quite important. Between the competition between nations, between companies, between organizations, between institutions, in which it is pretty cutthroat, and beginning to realize that we need to work with each other together to establish the harmony of the whole, I think, to use the Chinese custom here. And therefore the capacity for collaboration as well as competition, so that working together we can enable each to do better than we would have done on our own. Now that is a different ethos, it's a different ethic, it is a different dynamic. Yes, it is. Yes. So the communication that we have with each other, the coordination of that is absolutely crucial. And I think this is where the government or a major overarching enabling centre or network of such centres have to work together. So that an NGO, as we have had, NGOs may come into a disaster area and prove an absolute nuisance. They don't have the resources, they don't have the transport, they don't have the communications, they don't know what to do, and they become dependent and make the situation worse. So we don't want that. What we need is to say, what are the needs? Who has the resources? How can it be coordinated? And then we catalyze this top-down and bottom-up and enable the whole functioning of the people with resources and the people in need and the situation and the infrastructure and the communications and the water and the food and the energy and the transport and the medical staff and so on, so that it all works better and better and better as time progresses and in a very short time span. So if you like, the management tasks, the management structures and skills are absolutely crucial and need to be trained for and enabled and understanding, so when something happens and it's a shock, you can move that in. And it may be resources from quite far away, or it may be quite local. But the coordination effort, the integration effort is really important. And this is where I think government plays a very important role in setting that function up. It may not do it. It may not have the expertise on the ground to do it. It may be too far away. But it needs to ensure that that function can be performed and performed well. And then review it and learn from it and do it better next time. Now, in terms of how the international community can work with China and how China can then begin to emerge onto the world stage. Again, it is beautiful to see this opening of the flower after the years of the struggle and coming with greater and greater confidence. Now looking at what has happened here in Sichuan province around the particular epicenter of this earthquake, the response was phenomenal. Your engagement in the problem solving was world leadership. The role of the People's Liberation Army is an example for the use of the military resource in a situation which you see being abused in other situations, and you could name them. I'm not going to. I don't suppose you will either. but you will be aware of them in different parts of the world, where the military are used to try and sustain power independent of the needs in the situation. Here it is a people's liberation army. It is for the people, and it has been deployed in their aid, in their time of need. And that is an example to all military engagements across the world. Your capacity to rebuild infrastructure, and then on that infrastructure to recreate a more resilient community, again, is an example to all, and much to be learned from that. So you have experience on the ground. Don't keep it to yourselves, or you don't need to now. It is to be shared and learned from. How on earth did you do it? Maybe. And maybe you can just help and teach and learn with, and then it will enhance your performance for the next time. So learning together is an improvement for all concerned. And it's this capacity to build, as we say, resilience, the ability to deal with a shock and recover easily in the world community, because the problems we face are now global. It's not one country, even as big as China. It is global, it's beyond your boundaries. And so the networking of resources, the networking of knowledge, and above all, the networking of learning, so that all solutions are being improved year and year by year, and learning from each other. And indeed, there's what we call double loop learning, and that is not just say, we learn this, we do it in a traditional way, but how can we learn better? How do we learn to learn? And the use of the visual, the auditory, experiential learning, emotional intelligence, shared information, computer-assisted simulation, whatever. So our learning capacity is being enhanced the whole time. Who knows what the butterfly effect of this forum might be here in China and indeed across the world. We can't tell what that will be. But you may have started something here which in 10, 15 years back, in 10 or 15 years time, you will look back on and say, that was such an important moment in which something emerged that is now a very significant element in our global story.